Good morning, everyone. Okay, Kate is really good. She can present without her laptop in front of her. I can't. I need it. I need my notes. So anyway, thank you very much for coming here today. Today, I'm going to talk about living with dementia in Singapore. Sorry, I just need to adjust this mic a bit. Maybe I'll hold it. Okay, so recently, someone said to me that dementia is a very sad disease because once a person has dementia, you will lose that person. Can I have a show of hands? How many of you actually agree with that statement? That once someone gets diagnosed with dementia, you will lose that person. It's a minimum. It's not that many people who are raising their hands. But I'm not sure whether it's because you've just heard Kate speak and you don't dare to raise your hands. Because if you look at her, there's no way you'll think that you will lose the person with dementia. She's so present, so alive. How can that be possible? And personally, I just want to say to you that I disagree with that statement, that you actually lose someone with dementia. There are 3 people who are very dear to me who have been diagnosed with dementia in the years past. And I can say for a fact that up till the point that they died with advanced dementia, I never lost a single one of them. And that is why today, even though I speak as a doctor, I'm not really going to speak about the medical part of it. I'm actually going to talk about how we as a community and as a society can help people with dementia continue to live meaningful lives. My talk will focus on 3 main parts. First part will be a little bit about how people with dementia possibly may respond when they are told of their diagnosis. Second part will be about personhood and a little bit about what it means to be human. And the last part will be what we actually can do in Singapore to make things better for this population. So we only have half an hour, so let's begin. Okay, statistics first. So we know this already. Currently in Singapore, we have about 50,000 people with dementia. And by the time it's 2030, we'll double that number, about 100,000 people with dementia. We know 60 years old and above, 1 in 10 persons will have dementia. 85 years and above, 1 in 2 persons will have dementia. And of course, because today we are talking about younger onset dementia, we have to say a little bit about the statistics here. The numbers are going up, but like Kate says, possibly it is because of greater awareness and more diagnosis. It is not just in the neurologists who actually diagnose younger onset dementias. Even in Khoo Teck Puat Hospital, in our Geriatrics Department, we are seeing more and more patients below the age of 65 who are presented with dementia. We see on average about 400 patients a year who have been diagnosed with new dementia. Out of that, about 7 to 8% of them are below 65 years old. That is about 30 to 40 persons with dementia below the age of 65 diagnosed a year in Khoo Teck Puat Hospital. It does not sound like a lot, but if you think about it, that means 1 or 2 patients every week is being diagnosed with young onset dementia. That is significant, isn't it? Question: what if you are diagnosed with dementia today? All of you here. What if I tell you today that all these things that have been going on in your mind, it's because you have dementia? How will you feel at this very point in time? What will you be most afraid of? And what would you hope for? In order to understand how to support people with dementia, we must first try to understand what happens when they are first given a diagnosis. How do they react? What do they need? And then, how can we then support them in the community? This study was done in 2007 in Canada. It looked at a group of persons with dementia and their caregivers and looked at how they responded to that diagnosis. It was divided into 3 main categories, the responses. First, denial. How can it be? How can it happen to me? Second category, grief. A lot of grief, because it is a very, very difficult diagnosis to listen to. And then the third category, a more positive sort of response. The person and the family, they rally themselves and they take it head on. They try to fight it, like what Kate has done. And what does this depend on? This response depends on a few factors. The disease itself, of course. Whether this is vascular type dementia, then it depends on which part of the brain is affected by the dementia. If this is frontal temporal lobe dementia, perhaps some insight may be affected. Severity of dementia, early dementia versus more moderate and more advanced dementia also makes a difference. Personality and biography, who you are as a person, how we cope with life's challenges, your life story, your life's perspectives, all of that makes a difference. And last of all, your social environment. What does that include? That includes the medical team who takes care of you. That includes, most of all, the people around you and the environment that you're actually in. In another study, this one done in 2003, this is done in England. It also looked at responses from people and their caregivers, and the responses were fairly similar. Can you see the diagram? Or is it very, very blur? Okay, let me just describe it very briefly for you. Basically, they found that it was dependent on two main things. One, the individual's response, the ability and the desire of the person to know the diagnosis. If you have a high ability and high desire versus low ability and low desire. The second important factor, how supportive the environment is. So the social context. Is it a positive social context or a negative social context? Let us look at this example. Madam Tan lives alone and has been increasingly forgetful. She forgets to turn off the stove after cooking and misplaces her money frequently. Her children try to persuade her to live with them. She refuses. She says she doesn't need any help. She does not have dementia. She is not forgetful. Unable to change her mind, her children decide to leave her to manage her affairs. Gradually, she leaves the house less and less. She starts to lose weight and also begins to lose interest in her usual activities. Is this a familiar story? It is, right? It's pretty familiar, right? So let's see. Where would she fall into? Madam Tan would actually fall into the bottom part. Why? Right at the beginning, the children were supportive, weren't they? They tried to help her. But she did not think that she had any problems at all at that point in time. So she declined their help. She denied the fact that there was a problem. Then what did the children do? They decided, forget it. It's okay. We'll just leave you alone. If not, we'll end up quarreling all the time. So they left her alone. Then what happened? Because of the cognitive deficits, because she wasn't really sure what was going on, and yet she knew that something was not quite right, she ended up doing less and less things, becoming less and less involved in her life, and she became more and more detached. What happens here if, let's say, Madam Tan had a very, very good insight. She had great ability and desire to know her diagnosis, but she had terrible social support. What if she lived alone? She had minimal family, no one to take care of her, no one to help her, no one to support her. Then what happens? There will be great distress. She would be very, very, very stressed because she would know that something is wrong, and yet there's no one there to give her the support that she needs. What if she had good insight and she had extremely good support, like a really good husband and really good children? Then what happens? Then there is a good chance that this person can cope and live well even with dementia. This is actually a model that we actually use to talk about dementia care. This model looks at the person right at the center of this, and we take dementia as the disease that is affecting the person. But how the person behaves because of this disease of dementia is dependent on a number of things. Let's go through it very quickly. Neurological impairment, so therefore, the type of dementia. Secondly, the health, whether they're depressed, how their moods are, whether they're physically well enough to leave the house on their own. Another important thing, personality, once again. Are they optimistic? Are they pessimistic? Are they sociable? Are they more reserved? Are they more driven? Are they more laid back? This is your personality. The biography again. Children, are they married? Are they single? What did they work as? Was he a taxi driver? Was he a cleaning auntie? Was she a cleaning auntie? Was she serving kopi in a kopitiam? What is it? All of that is important. And of course, last of all, the environment. Let's look at this lady, and we use this as an example to see what makes up a person. Look at her. How old is she? Maybe she's 70, maybe she's 80, we don't know. But what makes her who she is? The time that she was born in, the times that she lived through, the house that she stayed in, the things that she did in her life, the hobbies that she had, playing mahjong, the temple that she went to, the food that she eats all the time, the transport that she took, the people in her life, her family, her friends. All of this make her who she is. What happens when there's dementia? All of these things slowly go away. But the question we must ask is it truly the dementia that takes all of these things away? Or is it us, the caregivers and society, that takes these things away from her? Why? Sometimes out of love, because we are concerned for her safety. We're afraid she might fall. We're afraid she might get into an accident. But sometimes it's out of fear. Of what? Of inconvenience to ourselves, to society. What is it? And when we do all of that, what happens to her? She becomes a shadow of her former self. And whose fault is it? Is it hers? Or is it ours? There are many things that people lose in dementia. We lose our intellect, we lose our abilities, we lose our functions. But ask yourself this question now at this very point in time. When I asked you just now, what are you most afraid of if I tell you today that you have dementia? What crossed your mind? Was it really the forgetfulness that you're most afraid of losing? Or the memory that you're afraid of losing? Of being forgetful? Of not being able to do some mathematics? Is that what you were most afraid of? Probably not. I think what came into your mind was probably the image of someone sitting there, not able to do anything with their lives. And what is that? That is the loss of dignity. That is the loss of your identity. That is the loss of your purpose. That is the loss of meaning in life. And I think that's what affects people the most. And that's what you're most afraid of. These are the emotional needs that every single human being has. Everything that we do in our lives, everything is there to help us fulfill these needs. We need to have an identity. We need to have a purpose in our lives. We do not want to be burdens to anyone in this life. We want to be included. We want to have attachments. We want to have bonds, relationships. We want to comfort people and also be comforted. At the end of it all, everyone is the same. We all want to be loved. So how can we help this lady regain all of those things that dementia and us took away from her?
Mama, 你煮好未？好肚餓咧！
買飯翻嚟俾你食嚇。
嚇？你冇煮飯咩？
都唔知點解嗰個電飯煲啊，嗰個燈唔着喎。唔緊要，我出去買俾你食。等我一陣，好快翻嚇。
快啲翻嚟啦！
哦。俾包雞飯我啦。好。我唔愛骨㗎嚇，我孫女唔中意食骨㗎。唔該你嚇，加多啲雞肉。阿啲你話我知邊條路返我屋企嘅
？Sorry, I don't understand you.
阿啲，唔該你帶我返屋企啊！
去邊？你住喺邊？
唔知啊，你帶我返車咯！唔該你啊，我求你啊！
你冇身份證，你家人喺邊？你唔知？
唔知道。阿叔，
咩事？
你帶我返屋企咯！
你住邊度？
你帶返屋企就得噶啦！我個孫啊，等住包飯食噶，佢真係好肚餓噶。
你要同我講你住邊度嘛？
總之你帶我返屋企就得啦！我個孫真係好肚餓噶，墮郎啦！我求下你啦，帶我返車啦！
不如我帶你馬打啲好冇？
我翻車啦，唔該你啊！我孫等住食飯啊，唔該你啊！uncle 啊！
I bought dinner home. Do you want to eat? Yes, please. I'm starving. Haven't eaten since morning.
Mama didn't cook for you?
No lah. She went out to buy me lunch. Until now, I haven't come back. Must have met an old friend who got on.
Amma went out and still hasn't come back.
Did she tell you where she went?
啊！每次咁樣就無啦疼啊！做咩啊？你喺度做咩？唔好咁樣啦！
先生，我求你，你帶我翻屋企，我個孫女好肚餓。
我係你個仔，阿田。
阿嫂，你帶我翻屋企，我孫女未食飯，好肚餓㗎，你帶我扯啦，我求你帶我翻屋企。媽媽對你唔住 ，sorry 啊，你唔好嬲媽媽。媽媽買咗你最中意食嘅雞飯啦，所以飲糕咯。你快啲食啦，你好肚餓噶啦，快啲食啦。阿媽，對唔住啊，你冇事啊嘛？冇事，媽媽冇事。
I can't watch this video. I've watched it so many times, and I still cannot watch it. Because watching it reminds me of my own grandmother. Because I know this is what she would have done for me. So who is this lady? She's a grandmother. That's who she is. That's what she was trying to do the entire time. She was trying to get lunch for her granddaughter, possibly someone that she has cared for ever since her granddaughter was a baby. She just wanted to get home. She just wanted to bring that lunch home to that daughter, that granddaughter. That's all she wanted. But what happened? She couldn't do it. And why was she distressed? Why was she upset? Because she couldn't do what was so important to her. This was her work. This was what was meaningful to her. This was what gave her purpose in her life. And so what if she had dementia? So what? What does it change? It doesn't change her. It doesn't change her role as a grandmother. But there are many obstacles that people face in Singapore today if they have dementia. We know already 50,000 people with dementia in Singapore. If half of them are wandering around in the community, are active in the community, and if, let's say, just 0.1% of them have difficulties getting around daily, that's 25 lost people a day. That's significant. Or again, maybe 25 doesn't sound like a lot. But what if one of them was someone that you cared about? Someone in your family who got into an accident on the road because the sense of judgment wasn't so good and people were not understanding? What if the person got lost and was not found? Like this man who was lost for 12 days and was found dead in a drain. There are many obstacles here in Singapore. So what can we do? In Singapore, people like to ask this question: what is the government doing for us? Am I right? So I must first tell you what the government is doing, all right? They are trying to build more nursing homes, okay, trying to provide us with more nursing home beds. But do you want to stay in a nursing home? How many of you decide that you want to use all your CPF money now to pay for nursing home next time? Unlikely, right? Very unlikely. It is not that nursing homes are terrible places. I know there are many people from nursing homes here, staff from nursing homes and all that. So yes, they do take very good care of the physical needs of the persons in nursing homes. But all those things that we were talking about, freedom, autonomy, privacy, meaning, purpose, identity, all of those things, what happens in a nursing home? It's all taken away. It's all taken away. What else is the government doing? Not bad. They're trying to provide more daycare centers for people with dementia and elderly in general. But is it a solution? Not really. It's not a solution for all. This is a study that Khoo Teck Puat Hospital did. We spoke to caregivers as well as patients and asked them, why is it that you don't want to go to all these daycare centers even though they are available? There may be a waiting time of 1 month to 10 months sometimes for the most popular ones, but they're available, so why aren't you going? And the reasons are very varied. Some of them feel that it's a stigma. I'm 80 years old. Why should I go to this center? It's for children. This is like a childcare center. I'm not a child. What if I'm 60 years old or 55 years old with dementia? Do I really want to go to one of these centers where people are in their 70s and 80s? I feel out of place. Again, what about autonomy? What about choice? What about freedom? In a daycare center, can I just walk in and out of the center as I wish? No way. There's no way you can do that. What if I just want to sit in a coffee shop for a while, go to the garden for a while, go to the community center for a while, go shopping for a while, then go back home for a while, lie down for a while? Can you do that in a daycare setting? It's not very likely that they will allow you to do all of these things that you actually want to do. But that's what makes you you, isn't it? That brings us to something that is also uniquely Singapore, I think, domestic helpers. Many of our elderly in Singapore and persons with dementia are cared for by domestic helpers. So what is that? So some people don't want to go to daycare also because they already have a domestic helper and the family says it's so expensive. Why should I pay for a domestic helper and then send her to daycare? So they don't want to do it. So all these domestic helpers, are they a solution? Are they answers? No, they definitely are not. They're not answers to this as well. They face challenges. What kind of challenges? Language. Isn't that a big problem? Our elderly people here speak in dialect. Can our domestic helpers speak in dialect? They may have challenging behaviors because they don't understand the language that the domestic helper is speaking to them. Then what happens? Do we then give them drugs to try and keep them quiet so that the domestic helper can take care of them? Domestic helpers are not solutions. There are also many elderly people who are living alone. And some of them, many of them, do not have that ability or the resources to employ a domestic helper. Currently, there are about 40,000 elderly living on their own. By the year 2030, there'll be double that number, 80,000. And this does not include the elderly people who are on their own at home in the daytime when their children are out working. So what are we going to do about all of these people? What are the repercussions? More and more people are found dead at home. People don't even know that they have passed away at home. Now comes the question, what can we do as a community, minus the government? Don't think about the government. Think about us as a community and as a society. What can we do? This is what we can do, a dementia-friendly community. I agree very much with what Kate said just now, which is that the aim here, when we try and build a dementia-friendly community, is not to try and build an artificial sanctuary for people with dementia. We are not trying to build a sanctuary where you can place them in it and they can just wander around freely in this place. That is not the purpose here. We are here to change mindsets. We are here to change society. We are here to change humanity. So what have we done so far? Dementia-friendly community has to involve everyone, like I've said. Everyone. From the police, to the people in the supermarket, to the people in the banks, to people in the hospitals, to people working in the coffee shop. Everyone has to be involved in this before we can actually say that this is dementia-friendly Singapore. So Lien Foundation and KDPH started this Forget Us Not campaign sometime last year to try and build this dementia-friendly community. It's been almost 2 years now. And in these 2 years, what have we done for ourselves? Or what have we shown for ourselves? We have come up with some concrete tips how to look out for people with dementia. Sometimes you can tell that the person may have some cognitive problems. Sometimes in a very noisy place, in a very unfamiliar place, they may look a little bit confused. They may look a little bit lost. And as they get more lost, more confused, they get more agitated, more anxious. And what do Singaporeans do? Do we approach them and help them? Or do we quickly step back and say, well, I better get away from this person? What do we do? So we teach you how to look out for these things, and we teach you how to interact with people who behave in this way, who possibly may have dementia. How do you speak to them in a respectful and reassuring way, in a way that will actually help to calm them down and allow you to help them and support them and allow you maybe to help that grandmother find her way home to her granddaughter. We have concrete tips on how to address issues that occurs in the supermarket, in the banks, in the coffee shops. We have done many public outreach events. We have spoken to the public. We have gotten celebrities on our side. We have gone to the grassroots. The police have a database. We have gone to churches, mosques, temples. Why? Why should they not continue going to the temple and to the church? Why not? They should. It's spirituality and it's important to many people in Singapore. We have gone to schools. We've gone to primary schools. We've gone to secondary schools. Some people may say, why go to these young kids? But isn't it important? In Singapore, it is extremely common that grandparents take care of grandchildren, isn't it? Just like in the video. So what happens? They fetch their grandchildren to and from school, they prepare their meals for them, and sometimes they even put them to bed. So what happens when the grandparent doesn't come to pick you up from school? What happens when your grandmother starts to get really angry with you all the time? We need to teach these young kids that maybe there's something they can do for their grandparents as well. What about people with young onset dementia? How old are their children? 12, 13, 15? Teenagers. They're going through huge transitions in their lives. All of that we need to help them with. Banks. We've gone to DBS. We've gone to SMRT, on the buses, on the taxis, at the MRT stations. People need to learn how to cope with this. One very common example I like to give people is, you don't think that it's difficult getting off a bus, but it is actually very difficult. How many of you, before you get off the bus and decide that you want to press the bell, have to think very hard at which point you press the bell? If you press too early, the bus driver may not notice. You press too late, bus driver may scold you. So what do you have to do? You have to look for the exact landmark and press the bell at the right time. Do you do that? Because I do that all the time. I'm really scared of getting scolded by the bus driver. That takes judgment, that takes planning, that takes memory, that takes recognition. People with dementia may have problems with all of these things. It's okay. Coffee shops. Recently it's come out in the papers, isn't it? That there is a coffee shop that has started to participate very much in this. Again, buying food. Is it really as simple as it seems? You have to choose. What if you want to buy what Singaporeans like to eat? Zha cai fan, economic rice. You have to choose the dishes. You have to mix and match. You've got to make sure that it comes under that $3 or that $3.50. It's not that easy. So again, the coffee shop, the people there, they have to learn how to cope with people who come with such issues. We have encouraged everyone to sign up with us as a dementia friend. Who is a dementia friend? Essentially, very simple, it's someone who is committed to help us in building a dementia-friendly Singapore. Neighbors are encouraged to help neighbors because they are the ones who are closest to them. We also encourage volunteers, like Kate has said. And one point about volunteering, I totally agree with Kate that people with dementia can volunteer. In fact, I have tried very hard to find volunteering opportunities for my patients with mild dementia. But you know what the response has been? No, thank you. If you want them to volunteer, please send someone with them to supervise them. But why do they need supervision? Look at Kate. Does she need supervision? No way. No way. Why not? Why not let them volunteer? Just like you and me, we have our strengths and our weaknesses. People with dementia have it as well. They have their gifts. They bring their gifts to where they volunteer, to where they work. And we have to accept it as it is. There are now 3 dementia-friendly communities in Singapore. And there will be more that will be coming up soon over the next 1 to 2 years. You will hear a lot about this in the news. I would like to show you a video of a dementia-friendly community. to show you what the vision of this actually is.
Ma, 爸不在啊。
哎呀 ，you know him 啦，every morning 啊，他很早出去的。he bought 有追龟 already，but he always like to walk around. OK 啦，exercise is good for him.
我出国读书那么久 ，but I still remembers my favorite 鸡龟。
呀咯，你吃先 ，I go return something。爸爸很快回来啦。Morning Helen，
Auntie，
等下我阿老來，你就咁做做啦嗬。水果四地香蕉淡薄，菜包做做啊，Auntie 我會記啦。放心，感謝你嗬，我先行，拜拜過來哈。Boss，thank you so much。啊，return to you one。
OK。
Here。
No need。
Thank you 啊。
Hello, Auntie Georg. How are you?
Hello, Kairu. Hello, Clarence. Good. I'm fine.
Don't worry. If we see him, we'll take him home.
Thank you.
Auntie Georg, what are you doing here?
在等你咯。你现在乖不乖
Of course, good lah.
I got something to tell you. If you see Uncle Tan around here, make sure you tell him which floor he stay. Okay?
I will. I promise you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. 很高兴你回来了。
哎，爸。
Kairu, thank you so much. I say trouble you again.
Auntie, no problem. Mr. Tang was just wandering downstairs, so we thought we'd bring him out.
Thank you.
他是谁？
他是你儿子，阿成。他回来了。
Ma, what happened to Pa? How long already? Why you never tell me?
It's dementia， 已经6个月了。幸好到处有朋友照顾他。
你是否独自在黑暗？
Abba is still the same, just that he's living in a world of his own. We have to reach out to him.
不停地回头，街道失去街灯的线索，每一扇门都是一道迷宫。那个名字属于
Auntie Helen，
哎，你好。
等一下爸来吼，一样的 order OK？
4个追柜，菜谱多多，辣椒少少，对吗？
谢谢。
过1秒钟，竟变成照片里陌生的面孔。请你跟着我，点亮夜空的灯火，让星光指引我们回到分岔的路口，牵着我的手，像你当时牵着 紧我的手中，不再流动。
Change is the only constant in life. It's from a very ancient philosopher. And I'm very, 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 very sure when he came up with this, he was not thinking of dementia. But in recent times, I've come to see it in a slightly different light. I've come to see that this really, really describes the life of a person with dementia and their caregivers really, really well. The disease of dementia changes the person constantly. And every single time you get used to something, something changes. Every single time the loved ones, the caregivers, the care partners get used to something, something changes. It can be the cognition, it can be the behavior, it can be the moods, it can be the needs. Most of us don't like change. So it is extremely difficult to have to live with someone who is changing constantly. How do you love that person who keeps changing in that way and through no fault of theirs? They just can't help it. Perhaps the only way to do it is to change with them. Is to adapt, it is to support them so that they can continue to live and to thrive. Because dementia does not take the person away. It definitely does not. The last thing I just want to say to you is something that one of my caregivers said to me one day when she walked into my clinic. She said, 医生，我知道怎么做了. I said, what do you mean? She said, I found out what the trick is. And I said, what is it? And she said, 就好像打乒乓. She said, this is like a game of ping pong, table tennis, in which it doesn't matter what the rules are, and you don't care what the rules are. The person can hit the ball out of the table, into the table, 5 times bouncing, 1 time bouncing, skid on the net, even hit it onto your head, hit it onto your hand, out of the room, whatever. It doesn't matter. All you need to do and all you should do is to try and get that ball. And very gently and very kindly hit it back to that person, to a place where that person can reach. At the beginning, it will be very frustrating, very exhausting, and you will want to give up on the game. But in time to come, you find some sort of a rhythm, and then it becomes a really enjoyable game of ping pong. Thank you.